can't even get these stupid things on. Now it's all stuck together. So that obviously wasn't the right thing to do. I'm just gonna dump some water in. Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Rocked It or Flopped It. I'm gearing up for my Thanksgiving feast this weekend, and I wanted to make pumpkin pie. Now, I've never made a pumpkin pie before. I had to search for a gluten-free, sugar-free, keto-friendly recipe for pumpkin pie, and I found one that looks really good. It's called the Best Keto Pumpkin Pie with our flaky pie crust. And this recipe is from numnum.com. One thing that I want to do differently though is make it dairy-free. Here we have all of our ingredients. Next we have xanthan gum. So if you've never heard of this, this is just an ingredient that makes things thicker. Lemon or orange zest. And I have lemon trees outside, so I decided to do lemon. I've never zested a lemon though. So I looked up online to see how to do it. And they say you're supposed to take a grater like this and just lightly grate it across. You're not supposed to get the pulpy part. Doesn't seem like I get too much out of this. Just try not to zest your finger. Hence the reason I have band-aids all over mine. I'm still learning this stuff, guys. I don't know, this zesting was a lot of work and kind of a lot of mess. Since it's optional, maybe you want to leave it out. Okay, now we're ready to put everything together. This recipe calls for using a food processor, but if you don't have one, you can just use a whisk to whisk all the ingredients together and then knead the dough with your hands. I used to do it that way before I got this. But since I've had this has been a lot nicer and a lot easier, so I like to use it as much as I can. Even though it's more cleanup, right, than just your hands, but I do like using it. Add the coconut flour and almond flour to the food processor, and the xanthan gum, the kosher salt, and the lemon zest. Pulse until evenly combined. Coconut oil and our tablespoon of almond milk, as well as our cream cheese. It says pulse for a few seconds until crumbled. Okay, then we add the egg and the vinegar, and we're supposed to pulse this just until the dough starts to come together, but before it turns into a ball. Now you want to have saran wrap ready to go. And first take your blade out so you don't hurt yourself. We want to get all of this out onto our saran wrap. Then we want to kind of shape it into a ball and wrap the saran wrap around it. And then just pat the saran wrap around it. Then we're going to put this in the fridge overnight. I'm back, it's the next day, and we are ready to make this pie crust for our pumpkin pie. Okay, so the reason I'm wearing gloves is because I got an owie on one of my fingers, and I didn't want it to be an eyesore in the video, but they're obviously 3 times too big for me, so we'll see how this goes. All right, so I have a pie pan here, and I am going to lightly grease it with coconut oil. Even though the instructions don't say anything about that, I just don't want it to stick. And next it says to take our pie crust out of the fridge and roll it between 2 pieces of parchment paper. And they say we gotta work quickly because it works best in cold conditions. So it's really, really hard. I don't know how I'm supposed to roll this out when I can't even, I mean seriously, I can't even press it together. So, I don't know. I'm putting all the pressure I have on it is not doing anything. So, I don't know. I'm just going to try to keep pushing it down. I'm pressing down more in the middle because it seems to be a lot thicker in the middle than on the sides. And I want to have enough to cover my pan, as well as have some extra to make those cute little leaves that are in her picture. So I might want to take some from the edge here. Put it somewhere else. We just take little pieces and pop them in. I don't know if I'm going to have any left over to make those cute little leaves. So this should work. It looks like it's going to fit. I saw a technique online that says you're supposed to roll it up onto your parchment paper, and supposedly that's supposed to help you get it into the pan. So we're going to see if that can kind of work. Maybe? Oh no, it's getting stuck. Oh, come on. Now it's all stuck together. So that obviously wasn't the right thing to do. They say if the dough becomes unmanageable, pop it back into the fridge or freezer for a little bit. I am going to attempt to save this. As you can tell, I have not made very many pies in my day. I'm gonna try a different way to get this into the pan. Maybe just flip it. That worked better. Okay, there's still a big chunk of it missing, but that's okay. They said no worries, you can just press it into the pan. So we'll just take the piece that fell out and we'll just press it in there. I don't think that's gonna be a problem. Your friends will never know what it looked like pre-baked. So I'm gonna just keep pressing around the sides and pressing pieces in just to try to get it as fully covered as I can. Okay, so it's definitely not perfect, but I think it's all covered. I don't have any holes in it. So I'm gonna pop this into the freezer for 10 or 15 minutes, and in the meantime, we can make the filling. So here's all our ingredients pre-measured out. Brown sugar substitute, kosher salt, ground cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, cloves, pepper, eggs, pumpkin puree, and the recipe calls for heavy cream, but I'm making this dairy-free, so I'm gonna substitute coconut cream and vanilla extract. Now we want to combine all of the spices in with the sweetener. That works a lot better. Just get your hands in it. Mix it up that way. Okay, next we need a large bowl, and we're going to beat the eggs in with the pumpkin puree as well as our coconut cream and vanilla. Okay, that looks good. Then we add all of this mixture in. Now we should probably do a taste test just to see if it's sweet enough. That's really good. So at this point, I would preheat the oven to 400 degrees. So. I can't even get these stupid things on. Okay, obviously the gloves just do not work. I don't know. They're way too big for me. It's very hard to dry them. So here's my owie. Sorry if it's an eyesore, but I am on a time crunch here. I have 2 days to make all the desserts for my Thanksgiving feast. So I need to be efficient, and I can't mess around with gloves that just don't fit and that don't work. So you're gonna have to just deal with my eyesore. Sorry. Anytime you bake a pie, especially with coconut oil, you have to put it on a cookie sheet because the oil will start dripping on the side of the pan and over the side, and it will just make your oven smoky and an absolute nightmare. So I had that happen to me when I tried to make my mock keto apple pie. So if you saw that video, you see my oven was just a disaster. So don't do that. Put a cookie sheet down. Then it says to pour the filling in. I'm not sure if we just cut it into strips. I've never really put foil on a pie crust before. So hopefully that stays on there. Now I'm gonna try to carefully put it in the oven without having anything fall off. Whew, success. It says bake for 50 to 65 minutes, uncovering the edges at about minute 40. Okay, are you guys ready to see our pumpkin pie? Let me tell you a little bit about it before you see it. So I followed the instructions exactly like what they said. At 40 minutes, I looked in the oven and the edges were completely brown already. So I was like, oh no. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse after that. So what happened was, ta-da! Here's our lovely pie. I know, it looks awful, doesn't it? Like completely flopped it, I know. Obviously it was at too high of a temperature. Maybe the way that coconut oil cooks is different than butter. I don't really know. I'm not really used to this yet, so I don't have it all down yet. So I don't know. I let it cool, and to me, it just doesn't seem like it's done. I mean, it tastes good, but it seems like the crust just got burnt. So I'm gonna remake this, and this time I'm gonna make a batch and a half of the crust, because I was so excited to make my pie look like payolas with the little leaves on top, and I have these cute little leaf cookie cutters that I was super excited to use, and I really want to use them and make the pie look like hers in her picture because it's gorgeous. So I need more crust, obviously. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I will rebake this. I'm gonna do some research to figure out exactly what I did wrong and what might work out better, and then you can see the result of that. So I will be back to redeem myself. I need a pumpkin pie for my Thanksgiving, and I will have one. So I've done a lot of research to see how I can make this pie better, and one of the things that I learned was how to make the foil wrap to protect the crust. The way I did it before was just cut it in strips and tried to piece it together, and that didn't really work that well. Fold it in half. Fold it in half again. And then about 4 inches from one of the corners, cut in a circle to 1/4 of the sheet. And they say that this should work to cover your pie. So I'm going to try it on here. Yeah, so now we've got this ready. And I was researching online about how to make the perfect pie crust that doesn't get soggy, but also gets crispy and flaky. And they said to blind bake the crust, and basically that means pre-baking. So I took the crust out of the freezer, and I brushed it with egg wash. I baked it for maybe 15 minutes, just until it started to get a little bit brown. And I also put this topper on it to protect the crust from getting too brown, because last time I made this pie, the crust was like super dark after the first 20 minutes. I chilled the dough again, the excess dough, and they said if it starts cracking, all you have to do is just press the dough into here. So I'm going to patch up some of these little spots. Next, I'm going to dump our pie filling in. And they said that make sure that the crust and the filling are both at room temperature when you put it in the oven. Then I also read some things about pricking the crust with a fork before you bake it, but they said to only do that with filling that isn't super liquidy and soupy. So I did not prick the crust with this filling because it is a liquid. Next, I'm going to try to put these little guys on here. Now I chilled them in the freezer and then put them in the refrigerator and took them out just a little bit ago. So I'm going to try to get them off of here. There, something like that. Brush these with a little bit of egg wash. I'm going to try to cover this without ruining the pie. Another thing I learned about pie crust is that it can crack. So just how they say you're supposed to bake a cheesecake in a warm bath, I researched online and they suggested that pumpkin pie should be baked the same way. So basically what that means is you need some kind of a pan that's deeper than your pie dish and something that's bigger than your pie dish so you can put it in it. Then you warm up water and put about 2 inches in the pan, and then you bake it. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I've never done this before, so we'll see what happens. I'm just going to dump some water in. Try the pumpkin pie. I have not tried this yet. I hope to God it turned out. The first one was a total disaster. So look at this.
Well, I figured there'd be a number two.
This actually looks good. Look at it. Look
remember the last time?
I love this pumpkin pie.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Times I actually had in her life.
Hey, if you like this video, show me some love. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. If you made this recipe, please comment below whether it worked out or not for you. And also let me know in the comments whether you think I totally rocked it or totally flopped it. And share it with your friends. That's all for now. See you later.